And I just want to share some of the scars that we at UN Watch have earned, and gives a window into how things work at the UN. I mentioned, I think, Tiana Wang, the daughter of Wang Binzhang. His picture hangs in my office. And I mentioned Professor Erwin Kotler, who is a human rights lawyer who influenced me. And he's been a great champion of the cause of Wang Binzhang, someone who was already living in Canada. He was one of the fathers of the Chinese democracy movement. He was kidnapped while traveling somewhere in Asia and has been languishing in prison for many, many years. We brought his daughter, who at the time was a law student in Canada, a very soft-spoken young woman named after Tiananmen Square. Her name is Tiana. And this is about 2014, I think. And she came to speak for us at the UN. And then a security guard noticed that there was a guy behind her taking pictures of her. And he seized that person's device and found on it all kinds of pictures. He was taking pictures of her and her computer. And the gentleman was actually a NGO representative from something like the Tibetan Foundation for Development and Freedom. I don't remember the precise name, but something like that. And it turns out it was a Chinese front group. And this person, China runs numerous front groups as so-called NGOs. They were able to win NGO credentials, but they're completely Chinese-run Gongos, which is a government-organized NGO, front group for the Chinese regime. And there have been several of them sitting there at that event who were basically Chinese agents, had NGO badges, and actually at the time, the New York Times correspondent in Beijing named Didi Tatlow decided to go find the address of this so-called Tibetan Development Foundation, under whose name this person was spying and harassing Tiana Wang. And she goes to the address, the listed address, and she sees it's kind of like the Chinese Pentagon. And she wrote about it in the New York Times. And she sort of knocks on the door and she says, "Is this the address for such and such?" And you go, "Yes." And they wait about 10 minutes. A guy comes with sunglasses and he's like, "Yes, I'm from the Tibetan Foundation for Freedom and whatever. How can I help you?" Some Chinese regime tough guy. And so that happened, and we complained in the UN. I think they made them leave a day or two earlier before the session ended, but didn't take away their credentials.